Good evening. I'd like to bring the Finance Committee meeting to order. It is at 6 p.m. on March 11th. First on the agenda is finishing up our budget discussions. I think we're 99% done with it. We're just going to be looking over the funding sources. And I think that we were looking at doing some changes here. One of them was the $600,000 stabilization, reducing that to $500,000 and then putting it in the emergency service facility funds. The rationale for that is it's easier to get it out if need be, as far as that, for the emergency service building. Any questions on that?
You just have to stay where the money's going to come from.
Yeah, the money's going to come from.
Yeah.
So the money would be coming out of taxation? Is that what we decided, Andrea?
I think you were going to you switched it to take $200,000 out of taxation and $300,000 out of free cash, because you had done it the other way and there was still 100,000 left in free cash. And this way you're using that 100,000, and you kind of left it open, I think, until you were sure that you weren't going to have anything else. And rather than throw that $100,000 on the tax rate, taking it out of free cash moves it off the tax rate.
So we're going to put 300,000 raise and appropriate? Is that what we're thinking?
No.
300,000 on free cash and 200,000 on raise and appropriate
Okay.
for the total of 5.
300. Then 200.
200 will come out of the tax rate.
Yeah. And that will be reflected. I think you're 99% done and have everything.
I'm waiting for you guys to decide whether you're done, and then when you're done, I'm going to use that, that information in the budget book. So
I think we're just kind of hedging our bets on would be the school, which is meeting on Wednesday, I believe. And they will make the final decision. And I don't think they're going to change their mind. So it's probably almost a done deal. So with that being said, everything but the fire truck. Is there anything on the budget that anyone would want to revisit? If not, I'll be looking for a recommendation to support the budget that we have come up with.
That includes both enterprise funds, or, because I don't think we ever voted on the sewer enterprise.
Oh, the sewer. Have we? I don't think we, well, we can revisit that then, right now.
Okay,
As far as
because I
that.
know we voted on the fire one.
We did on the fire.
Yeah.
And the only other thing is, did we do the,
We didn't do the capital for the school because remember it was the freezer and the flooring. We never gave a official, because they were changing the figures on that because of a grant. I think Andrea will give us the final amount of money that we will need to approve for that issue, for that capital.
that's still at 55. Because even though they've got a grant for part of the funding, if you put together the cost of, they had 2 or 3 different analysis ranging somewhere from 45 to 65, but then there was still the installation costs. So even if they get a grant for some 40,000 of that, they're still going to need a chunk of money to pay the rest of it and do all the installation and electrical work. So they're still requesting at this time the 55 for 10,000 in flooring and 45,000 for the new refrigerator, freezer, walk-in accommodation. So
free cash?
and that isn't as a separate. Oh, no, that's in as a separate article under raise and appropriate.
Oh, okay.
So right now, if you look at your sources of funding, you have obviously the omnibus is raise and appropriate, as is the school, which is generally the case. The school capital article is a 55,000 in raise and appropriate, and then 25,000 for the EMS budget. That's the 25,000 that all 4 towns are going to put in this year. And then you have the highway truck and equipment for 400 and 200 for the public safety building. That is your full raise and appropriate at this time. And then out of free cash, 30,000 for the grant match, 33,000 for the energy projects, 113,572 for the police cruiser and all of the equipment, including the IT equipment, 300,000 for the fire department truck, whatever you decide on that. 35,000 for the highway radio equipment, $100,000 for OPEB, and 300,000 on the public safety building for a total of 911,572 out of free cash. That leaves a balance of $14,062 out of free cash you actually don't spend. And then you go to your enterprise funds and your CPA funding. So that's what's currently in those, the way it's apportioned right now. Obviously you can recommend changes to that. And that, if you do that, if it's left like that, it actually estimated, and we haven't yet hit our estimates. They always seem to be a little high because we usually end up with more revenue. So we have to estimate the revenue. And when we estimate that low, when the full revenue comes in, the amount on taxation goes down, but we always estimate low on revenue. That estimated tax rate would go up about 80 cents from $13.58 to $14.39. The way this is presented right now.
So the
Still
the
leaving
thing
you
that
a
we
million
need-
under, still leaving you $1 million under levy.
Okay, so we need to revisit the sewer enterprise fund for our recommendation.
Like, well, how do you feel about capital, whether you guys want to change anything, and obviously any of the enterprise funds if you want to make a recommendation.
Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, I think we should, as a committee, finance committee, move to, I think we should recommend the school's capital project amount in the $55,000, because that's one of the things we need to do. And since we know what, from Andrea, the final number, at least, that the town is going to have to bring apart from that grant, we can either say yes or no on the issue, depending on what the committee wants.
And if they don't use the full 45 of that 55, we will close out that article after the project. They can't use it for anything else. It will be, the article will be written for their refrigerator, freezer, walk-in, and the 10,000 for flooring. So they won't be, that will return to you sort of free cash once they complete that project. So that money is not just generally available to the school. It will be for that, earmarked for that project. And when if they need a little less of it, it will come back to the town when we close out the article.
Looking for a recommendation.
I vote to recommend it. Leave it to other members here.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor signify by saying yes. Dan Campbell says yes.
Gail Weiss, yes.
Sue Kaczynski, yes.
Bernie Parada, yes.
Tony Mateo, yes.
David McCarthy, yes.
So moved.
Okay.
Then we were talking about the enterprise fund.
Right, I don't think we recommended the sewer yet.
Probably neither one of them. I'm not 100% sure. It
I thought we
doesn't.
did
We did
EMS.
EMS.
We did EMS the other
Yeah.
night. That's
Yeah,
correct.
EMS is, I haven't marked that we approve that.
Yeah.
It's the sewer.
Yeah,
Okay.
the sewer enterprise fund, yeah.
Recommend, not approve.
I burn,
They're adding
Unless
what,
there's any
2 more
dis-
people?
what is it?
They're adding 2 more people
That's their hope.
To
as far as
their,
that.
to the board.
to the board, but to the operating, is it? one
They're
or
also
two?
going to add, I believe, a full-time position and a
Okay.
part-time position. Those
Okay.
were recommended by their consultants,
Okay.
Tig and Bond, because they were basically woefully understaffed.
Because
is what
their
they-
budget went up about 80,
Yeah,
their
I-
wages went up about 80.
Yeah, and then the other thing is some of the other recommendations are what the consultant advised them of, and those are also, I believe, they have spoken with DEP about, DEP's looking for progress on several areas, and these are one of the areas that they're moving forward on. So I don't see, personally, I think that some of these things are long overdue, and and I'm supportive of it. We have to do something, to approve to move forward with the
It
the
looks
sewer.
like they added it to the indirect.
They did.
Yeah.
They added it to their budget. As of today, we haven't heard from the state as to what their decision is. The state has to make a decision first before we can move forward on adding them to the ballot.
Okay.
If we don't have it within the next week and a half, we won't be able to add it to the budget, but that doesn't mean that it stops them.
Right.
What it means is, as far as I have heard, the two boards will get together, select board and sewer commission would get together, and at that point be able to appoint until the next town election, which would be next year. And I brought this up a while ago. Unless things change, that's probably the route that's going to happen for this year. And then next year, there would be positions that would be on the ballot for those. And if the people that are appointed run for it, then that would probably be a good indication that they're doing a good job. So with that said, in the discussion.
I don't know if you just want a quick update. I did do it at the select board meeting. We did hear from the legislator's office that the bill was assigned a House number and it went to the Public Safety Committee and then a joint Public Safety Committee. So it was getting a Senate bill as well. And they did ask me just to give a little couple of sentences so they could speak to it from our legislator's perspective as to why we were doing it. And so I wrote a couple sentences that were explained at the town meeting, talking about that it was because they needed the additional staffing, then we were, that we were going through a lot with the consent order, and that we were also looking to possibly go back to metered. So there was going to be a lot of work, and that the current board felt that it would be beneficial to them to have 2 additional members to help share that. So it is in committee, Public Safety Committee.
Any time frame now that it's in committee?
No, when it emerges from committee, it still then has to be voted on by the House and Senate, and then has to go to the governor. So the odds of it actually making it before the town election are probably pretty narrow before you have to post an election ballot, but it's not, I don't think it's controversial, so we don't know how fast it'll move.
So unfortunately, if that does happen, then I anticipate that they would probably work together with the, like I said, the select board and and appoint for at least a 1 year. All right.
Yes, the select board adopted that section of the law, which is a policy, which is how elected official vacancies get filled, which is with the committee and the select board meeting jointly, putting forward names, voting it jointly, and then till the next election. So yeah.
Okay. Anything else?
No, I make a motion to approve the sewer enterprise fund request for fiscal year 25.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that. Tony Mateo.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying yes. Dan Campbell says yes.
Gail Weiss, yes.
Sue Kaczynski, yes.
Bernie Parada, yes.
Tony Mateo, yes.
David McCarthy, yes.
I think we've approved just about everything else. The omnibus, the
Just have to approve
free
the capital
cash.
stabilization.
Yes.
We have to make an approval, a vote on that for how it's worded. You want to make a motion, or is there any further discussion on it?
Again, a capital stabilization fund. The reason that we're putting money into the building account rather than capital stabilization, it takes a different vote to come out from one to the other. If our intent is to use that money for the possible emergency service building facility, then it would be easier for them to be able to access that. If it isn't used, then obviously we can use it in other areas, but at least it will be available if needed. It would take a simple majority to take it out of the emergency service building account than it would be to if we put it in capitalization. That's why we were thinking about doing it that way. Any questions? Then I will entertain a motion to put $300,000? Yeah.
Right. I just wanted to let you know the reason that I recommended this was exactly what Dan said, and it's less to do with the fact that, I mean, it's not only that it's easier, it's that it's actually timely. So if they were to move forward on a project or a building or engineer, whatever it is for any of the three departments, if you put it in stabilization, you got to go back to town meeting to appropriate it. We already have an existing emergency services facilities account that has been utilized just for that purpose for those projects. And if we put it in a capital stabilization account, then you'd have to go back to town meeting to vote it for the same purpose. Whereas if it's in that account, then it can be directed by the emergency services building committee, and the select board then sign the warrant. So there is still oversight of the funding being used without having to go back to town meeting. Should you want to hire an engineer? Should you want to move forward on a plant? Whatever the case may be, studies. By putting that money away, it makes it a lot harder to get it to be nimble, to keep moving forward on the projects.
So in the end, the select board has the purse strings? Correct.
Okay.
Well, both the board and they would make a recommendation to the select board, and the select board would release the funds.
Right, the committee would recommend to the select board.
The select board signs the warrant, so they have ultimate approval over any expenditure in the end, but the emergency services building committee would, control the ability, but they vote as a group before any expenditures are made. So it's not like any one member can spend the money. The group would have a plan, or would have a project, or would have a proposal before them. They would review it. They would vote as a committee to expend the funding. And then that funding, even once it's expended, has to go on a warrant. So the select board also see it. So it's not like anybody's able to spend that money without other groups knowing that it's happening. Not that that's ever an issue, but just so people know that it's not like any one person or group can just spend the funds without some oversight.
Also, the accountant looks at it.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So again, what it is,
I mean, the accountant has to approve.
Yeah.
The accountant has to approve any bill, before it would actually be expended.
Just to reiterate, it's $500,000.
and it's $300,000 coming out of free cash and $200,000 coming out of taxation. Is that correct? I think,
That is correct.
Correct.
okay.
That's the recommendation.
Entertain an emotion.
Before you do, I just want to be a little clearer to the public too. This money gives the select board some freedom of movement on the issue of that. This may not be the original plan, which was a merged police, fire, EMS facility on Main Street. Because of the needs of certain departments have changed, and because of the fact there may be opportunities for us to potentially purchase a facility for one of the services. This is the reason why the justification is for this money to be available in case there is a potential purchase of a property. But again, this purchase would not be this potentially not a combined facility or constructed on Main Street. This could be potentially of a purchase of an existing site for potentially EMS. But that is up to the select board's discretion.
And more than that, if they're going to purchase the property, it will come back to town meeting.
Correct, but this is just gives them the flexibility and
Town meeting will vote on a purchase.
Yeah.
Correct.
and-
To say that they have that money in an account somewhere for that purpose as we build towards that potential project, town would still have the opportunity to vote on whether or not to acquire that property. So residents will still see a plan you know, what the proposal is, what the suggestion is. We expend any large sum of money, in order to purchase a property. So it doesn't cut the residents out of that process in purchasing anything. So I just want residents to know that.
Yeah.
I make a motion that the finance committee recommend
For the emergency services facility funding, into that account specifically, not capital stabilization, and that 300,000 will come from free cash, and 200,000 will come from the tax rate. And just for the residents again, to reiterate for their information, this will bring the estimated tax rate to $14.39 per thousand, which is an increase from the current $13.58 per thousand, which would be an 80 cents increase on the tax rate.
Do I have a second?
Second. Gail Weiss, second the motion.
Okay, any more discussion? All those in favor signify by saying yes, those no. Dan Campbell says yes.
Gail Weiss, yes.
Sue Kuzinski, yes.
Bernie Parada, yes.
Tony Mateo, yes.
David McCarthy, yes.
Okay.
Are we going to wait? We're going to discuss the tech school, or are we going to wait on that till next week? We're going to wait till their budget presentation tomorrow? Or
No, it's not the
Wednesday?
tech school.
Oh, it's a tech school, yeah.
The tech school, we have not
Yeah.
approved their budget because their numbers
Yeah,
were
they haven't
presented to us.
We're
The last
assuming
week.
that it's not going to change from what he told us. He was pretty adamant that it was going to be what he has told Andrea. So again, we're going to meet one more time next week anyway, and we'll just finalize anything that's out there. We will recommend or not recommend things in the budget that we are not 100% clear with tonight. Anything else right now in the budget that we need to discuss, Andrea?
Not under this topic, I see that you have the fire truck coming up, but.
Yeah.
I think as long as
Yeah.
you've been through all the other stuff, I can move forward.
Yes.
Forward with at least this is part of the budget report, and then I'll wait till the final vote from, from the school and all that, later this week.
Okay. Yeah, that will be what, next week when you have everything, we're pretty much right there.
Thing we don't have is what we're talking about with the fire truck, I think, tonight. So we're going to move on to the fire truck. Last week I asked, we had three things we were discussing, or it had three different options. And I know that everybody has had, what I'm going to ask, if we can get Skip in here next week for his final shot at giving us some information. We've had a lot of information. We have two different options, possibly three different options to go with. One is to fund the used truck. One is to a combination pumper and rescue vehicle. And the third one we kind of threw out on the table is to put aside $300,000 to be used for a vehicle to be named later. So those are the three options that I asked you to kind of think about. And to be fair, we should bring Skip back in here. I didn't have a chance to contact anybody. I had too much going on last week, so I apologize for that. So if you want to discuss it tonight, we can. But we won't make any decisions tonight. Or we can wait until next week to give Skip or the fire department one more shot at convincing us the best possible route, and then make our decision then. I will leave it up to the rest of the group. Well, just a consensus. This is not,
I'm inclined to wait to see what Skip has to say.
okay.
I'd like to hear
Okay.
especially if we're gonna break it down into 2 years.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I agree.
Okay. With that said, we're going to table this until next week, and bring Skip in here. And so, Andrea, could you help me out with that and try to get a hold of Skip? Review it.
Absolutely. I'll send him an email. I'll send him an email and ask him to come to the meeting next week to talk about it.
If you want, if he hasn't been watching as far as doing that, you can give him the three things that we're looking at, the three options that we were discussing here. So he won't be blindsided by, what we're thinking.
Oh, the other thing, Andrea, I did drop off a copy of my suggestions at your office, and obviously Sandra has a copy of that, so she can provide to you if you want to make a copy or provide that to Skip.
Yeah, I'll have her scanned so that I can then send it to him as well.
Okay, all right.
Move on to the approval of minutes. I thought I sent them out. I thought did anybody get them?
Nope.
I don't know.
We'll table that.
I got the agenda.
For some reason, I was having some issues trying to get things off of my computer out so I could get it out to everybody else. We're going to move on. Reports and meetings attended. I think, well, the majority of us were at the meeting, and for those who weren't there, I think it was, this is the three-town committee that is met for the first time last Thursday. And there was a abundance of topics that they were discussing. One of them was the regional agreement, I'm sorry. The regional agreement, and it was a consensus, I think, that everybody's there, that we kind of need more information, and we're not going to jump right on it. And I think that was a very good thing to do. So that's going to come back. We're going to have another meeting in June to go over. I think that's one of the main topics we're going to go over. The other thing that we discussed a little bit, but not really that much because it wasn't really on the agenda, that was the 6-town agreement or regionalization. We're going to hear more about that in the future. The other thing was the resource officer. And that was kind of a heavy discussion. Again, we've been picking up a heavy part of the bill. And, I left there kind of thinking, I think that the whole argument is the word officer, maybe. I think that this person is a resource person who's there just exactly what the job entails. He's a resource for people that are there. And if you think about education now, when probably everybody at this table went, if there was any kind of discipline or any kind of that needed to be discussed, or you needed to have somebody being taken care of or talked to or trying to, you'd go to the vice principal. Or they'd have somebody in charge of that. I mean, even when I was in school, we used to have the student patrol, which were the kids that would kind of patrol the halls and make sure everything was happening. Those days are gone. I think that they need an adult there with an education in law, not necessarily law enforcement, as a resource for some of these homes or some of these people that have issues that they can't go to their parents, maybe because that's the problem. They can't go to their teacher, maybe because they can't. It used to be you could respect a teacher, they could go talk to a teacher, and a teacher would talk to them and try to help them out. And that's kind of hard these days because the teachers are more focused on teaching, and rightfully so. So I think what they're doing is they're looking at this as a person that's in there that's out to arrest everybody as far as, and the worst possible thing that could happen is what had happened. Somebody got out of control, they called the police. And they thought that was a great thing because they didn't have to worry about police presence being on there. But that to me sends the wrong signal. What they need is someone there that is willing to work and teach and learn and be part of the school community, that is there, that if a child or a student has an issue with a bully, they can go talk to this person and say, hey, this person's picking on me, or somebody is cyberbullying me. How do I help? How can I do that? Not necessarily to be there to arrest people. Also, when things start getting out of control, there would be somebody there that would help diffuse that, rather than having it go to the end of having to call the police and to, take care of that person. So I'm rethinking that whole resource person. And I think they're looking at it differently. They're looking at it, we can't control ourselves, so we have to have a police officer in the school. So that was just my feeling after the meeting was over. So we may not revisit that. We're paying for it. We send an officer over there when it's needed. If that's what they want, then I think they're missing the whole point of what a resource officer is all about. Again, that's just me. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but it was part of that whole discussion.
I think that the best thing that came out of that was a discussion about when there's a problem, they call the police, and that's the only time that the students see it, when there's a problem. And they associate police problem, arrest, whatever you want to call it, that having somebody at the school who is there when there isn't a problem, who students can get to know, can talk to prevent perhaps problems from coming up. That to me seems like an excellent use of the school resource officer.
And it was kind of, it hit me, the irony of it is, what they were saying is, somebody from Bernardston, or even I think they were from Leiden, that said, they get to know, the chief of police and the sergeant from Bernardston because they're around town. Well, you've got two other towns that are over there, I'm sorry. So that's the same kind of thing that you want to create with your resource person. You want that person to be the person that you feel comfortable talking to. It used to be a football coach. It used to be a baseball coach you'd go to. It used to be, basketball coaches or cheerleading coaches. You used to go to them and you used to ask them if you had some issues as far as that. Those days are gone. I think they need somebody that has the knowledge to be able to help some of these kids out through, some legal things that may come up. That's, again,
There's also, and they do have some counselors there. I can speak from that since I've been a counselor there for 15 years. And certainly there were things that came up with students who came to me. I got the impression that the counseling services didn't want the school resource officer there for some reason. I'm not sure why that is true.
Nobody has actually come out and given us the actual reason for no. And I think it was said out there the other night too that the public or the parents in that have not been able to chime in or ask. I don't know if that's true or not because I was hearing it from people who are either in the school committee or that have some knowledge about the school. But it's an issue that should not be an issue. It should be something that, you're talking about a guidance counselor. That resource person should be working within the guidance counselor, should have an office right next to them or right with them and working together to oversee and make the environment the best, safest possible environment to learn, period. And again, so I won't beat that horse because the town of Northfield actually been beating that horse for 5 years or better. So
Yeah, I would say this, that at the end of that meeting, it got cut off. I think a few other people wanted to say something. Two things. From a fiscal standpoint, just from the finance committee, we're already paying for it.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
So just the financial piece of it, we're absorbing it anyhow. So we need to probably take a look at how do we parse that so it's equitable to the district if they're not going to put somebody there full time. And I kind of like that partial discussion.
Yeah.
The other piece of it was strictly outside of finance is it seemed to me that if the school board voted it no, without inquiring to the people that have students in the building, from my perspective, shame on them. But I don't know that anybody's ask them that pointed question.
And I don't look at it as Big Brother's looking over your shoulder, right? I look at it as, oh, if something comes up, then I need to talk to an adult or talk to somebody that I can trust. And again, that trust only comes if that person's been in there for X number of years or days, as far as that, to get to know the students that are in there. You can't do it 1 year and not do it, and and automatically stop it. And unfortunately, education has this way of starting things, taking it halfway, and then stopping for some ungodly reason sometimes. It could be finance. They could have said, oh, we can save $40,000 by not having this person here. Okay, this person is not a teacher, so we don't need him. But the town of Northfield's picking up probably 90% of that whole thing. So,
Right.
All right. I'm sorry you weren't there because you would have gotten an earful too.
I'm sorry to interrupt for 1 second. I just have to cut out. I have another call coming in, so.
Yeah, I think we're just gonna go over the meeting a little bit.
We're almost done anyway. It's not going to be a long thing. So we'll see you.
See you guys next Monday in person. So.
Okay, good.
All right.
We're having a meeting tomorrow night to get to, those, to solidify those warrant articles for the.
CPA.
Send me the article, so shoot me an email.
It'll be tomorrow night, we're gonna.
Okay, that's perfect. Thank you, Tony. All right. See you
Okay,
Monday.
You mentioned that you
They were
were
going to bring up the issue of because of the state was looking for more that boards be more transparent with residents about the issue of public comments. I only have one thing. I have no issue with the public having participation, but I want to make sure that we use a standard process that the rest of the boards and select board use, and that has been that town council has drawn up and can meet any type of legal issue beyond our knowledge and expertise.
We're actually, the town clerk is working on that because we got a little bit of an issue, but we look at different things. And one of the stipulations is, yes, you can have it, but you have to be recognized by the chair. The chair has to allow you to speak. So if the chair and it's more prevalent in hearings than it is in committees.
Yeah.
So
I just want to make sure we have it legal, it's bulletproof legal by our town council, and that we have the similar as what select boards and various other boards have to meet. I just want to make sure that that's a uniform policy that is clear cut, and that obviously we can all easily read, understand, and know, so that when we do have public comment, we know it's applicable.
It will be coming down years ago, or I think last year, where people were getting up and speaking and just disruptive. And one of the things that
concern,
will not be allowed to have happen is we'll be disruptive as far as that. We'll have things in place to do that. I don't think it's going to affect really any committee. I think that where it might come into play would be hearings for planning boards, zoning boards, that sort of thing. So as far as finance committee, I mean, they can come in and what are they going to do, yell at us for trying to save them money? I don't know. But
Not
anyway,
that we get much of
you're
an
right.
audience of that, but I just
You're
want to
right,
make sure it's legally codified.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it should be similar, it should be really across all the boards.
It is.
pretty much the
It will
same
be.
policy,
It will be.
yeah.
And Amanda has been working on it because it's brought up in a couple of her classes that she was in. And so she is the town clerk, and she is checking into that and make sure that what you're saying is going to be what's going to happen here.
Yeah, okay.
The meeting, I left off a few other things. Other things that we discussed in the meeting, because I was not necessarily regionalizing just a school, but we were talking about other things like police, fire, ambulance, and doing that. And if you're looking at it right now, the ambulance is working that way. It looks like that is something that is actually happening, because we're seeing that 4 other towns are doing it, or are chiming into that. But the other thing would be the fire and police, and that's something that I brought up. They were talking about, well, how do we do that? I said, well, you've got the 3 towns here, and we have the select board here. You guys are the ones that have to come up with it. So the select board should, decide or try to, if they feel that it is cost savings and not only cost savings, but is safer by doing that. The biggest thing that came out of it that they were laughing. I wouldn't say laughing about it is the reason they don't want to have fire, police, and that is they didn't want to have a police cruiser in their town with another town's name on it, which.
Yeah, that was it.
Which to me, so I would say that if they regionalized, they would have a regional name on their vehicle, not one town in particular.
Well,
But
that's gonna be true of all communities. They're
But-
all gonna be, they all wanna be, their own.
Oh,
But the-
they're all fiefdoms, I can tell you that.
It's all
right now.
fiefdoms,
Yeah.
but the thing is the days of the fiefdoms are slowly dying out because,
Yeah.
in all
Well, it's-
honesty, the communities can't afford the fiefdoms anymore.
Yeah.
It's just
You're
getting to the
exactly
point. Plus, it's difficult to find and hire personnel now to staff. So
realistically, with mutual aid, they're actually doing that.
Yeah.
So you're actually having somebody else's car in your at MIMS sometimes. I think you brought that up.
Yeah.
right?
yeah, they're
Duncan sometime in the morning.
Oh, yes. Oh, either way, either Mims or Duncan. Any other meeting that you guys?
no, I
You
haven't.
have one tomorrow you're going to be doing?
Yeah,
Okay.
no, I haven't had one since last time.
Public comments, there's no public here, we don't have to worry about that.
Do we have any sense of when we're going to get the district agreement to give us our edits?
I haven't received it yet. They're going to send it out. I think it's probably going to come through Andrea through the select board because they're going to get it.
I don't think they've
once
completed it. I think it's still in the draft stage. And then they're looking to have also DESI approve the final from their end.
I think they were going to try to get a hold of it and get it out to us. And if for any reason I get it, I'll get it out to you guys. But hopefully we'll have it enough time to look it over before the June meeting and be able to see what the agreement is. I would like to, it's been so long, I'd like to see what the Heart Committee had come up with and see how close or see what, how, but I don't know if that's around. I have to look to see if it's in the archives someplace. If it is, I'll try to get it out.
I went looking for it and see if I could find it in my computer. I couldn't.
We'll see what we can come
Yeah,
up with.
Jane Dutcher over in Bernardston had a copy of it.
Okay, so if we can, well, she's going to try to get it out. She's going to try to get most of it. She was going to be the go-to person, I believe, to get most of this stuff out for us. And then once if I have it in my possession, I'll get it out to you guys. If I have all your emails, I believe, someplace. If not, I'll get those out to you. Or I'll bring copies from one of our meetings if we have it. But it's going to be before that June meeting, I hope. We'll see.
Well,
And then they're
certainly
taking their
should
plan.
be.
If we don't have it by June, why would we meet on it?
This is true. You're right.
Right.
Exactly. So it's up to them
Should
to
be.
try to
We
get it
should.
to us because, like anything, we can't make any decisions. We can't have a discussion on something we don't have. I guess that's it. This is going to be a quick meeting tonight.
Well, we're all finished, I guess. I make a motion that the finance committee. Oh,
We are meeting next Monday,
Okay,
just to finish up.
yeah.
okay.
And there is talk of the meeting, I think, Tuesday
Okay.
with the select board. And I'll keep you posted on that. That would be, we're going to look at our recommendation. We'll discuss the budget and if there's any glaring issues that we fight back and forth with them about. I can't see the only controversial thing is, do we want this truck? And it's been bothering me, so I'm just, I want all the information. Bernie was grateful to get all that information for us, so.
No.
So anyway, Monday,
What time
possibly
does the-
Tuesday.
Okay, if it's possibly Tuesday, what time does the
It would
board?
be at 6 o'clock.
Okay, okay, because I gotta be at UMass till 5. Okay, so, but I'll be right, I should be here by 6.
I'll tell you exactly, because I did have. I take it back. Finalized budget on the 11th. Nope, we didn't do that. Monday the 18th, they're
Okay.
closing the warrant.
Oh,
Tuesday, the joint meeting with the select board to discuss. So, Wednesday was PVRS budget certification to the town. So it was their budget also.
Yeah.
So that's basically what we're talking about. So we'll be meeting next week just to finalize the one last piece of the budget, okay?
We'll be meeting next week,
Next
Monday
week.
and Tuesday.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, yes. We don't have to be, I don't know how long we'll be there the whole night, but it will be
Yeah,
first
no,
on
no,
the
that's
agenda,
fine, I'm
I'm
just-
sure.
I just
And
can't
you said
remember
at
when
6
my
o'clock for the
UMass.
select
6
board?
o'clock is when they usually have it. Check the calendar just in case they change it, but they meet at 6 o'clock.
Well, you're gonna need to post it anyway,
Yeah, I'll
right?
have to
Yeah,
post it.
okay.
We'll post it both as far as doing that because we'll
I'm
have
trying
a
to get to
majority
the
of us
UMass
there.
conference.
Now you can go, sir.
Oh, I apologize, didn't mean to jump on too early. I make a motion that the Finance Committee meeting today on March 11th be adjourned.
At 6:46 PM. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying yes. Those no. Dan Campbell says yes.
Gail Weiss, yes.
Sue Kaczynski, yes.
Bernie Parada, yes?
Tony Mateo, yes?
David McCarthy, yes.
Thank you all for coming. We'll see you next week.